Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Jeffrey and welcome to this webinar. It's such a great opportunity for us all to hear from Alejandro, the grazing practice he's used to regenerate his ranch and what he saw and learnt whilst he was in Australia a couple of months ago. It was a pleasure to have Alejandro here in Australia, and for those that had the chance to get to his workshops or field days, came away with so much. A huge thank you to Alejandro for taking time out to do this webinar for us today. Your passion for sharing your knowledge, experiences and learnings, not only from your own ranch, but from travelling across so much of the world, is truly inspiring. Thank you to Regen WA, who have supported this webinar through their state NRM Accelerating Regenerative Adoption Project, and also for organising the webinar link. Thank you everyone for attending, and I now welcome Alejandro.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Bonnie. Well, thanks everybody for attending today's presentation. I would like the first thing is for us to recognize how powerful is the biology of the livestock. This is not exactly in my ranch, but in central Mexico, where we did a project on trying to regenerate these agave plantations. If you don't know what agave is, that plant is a native to Mexico and also is a plant that is being used to produce tequila and mezcal. Unfortunately, 99.9% of the mezcal is done this way. The way you see it in the screen, very degraded, full of chemicals. But then this particular client really wanted to do things different. And the only tool that we use was livestock. In this particular case, horses, donkeys, sheep, nothing else. I mean, obviously, we stopped using some of the chemicals that they were using, sealers, biological amendments, and it was all about controlling and the livestock. This is not like a sequential picture of historical pictures. It is more like these pictures were taken on the same day. So you see one of the neighbors, typical agave plantation. And then after 2 years of us working with the client using livestock, this is what we got. I mean, this place in central Mexico, it does rain more than a ranch. They get about 35 inches per year. You do the translation. I'm confused to metric and English and keep changing from one to the other. But this is a result. We didn't see anything. Obviously, the first thing we did was to rest the area. And then there was plenty of weeds. And then we put the livestock. We sometimes have to feed the livestock, but right now that we're growing grasses, there's no need to feed the livestock. But I'm not trying to tell you that you're never gonna feed the livestock. If you need to feed the livestock, then you just do it. And the result is that we start promoting some insects that predate on pests, like those couple of, like that spider. And you can see this, the multiple species that we use, donkeys, sheep, horses, and so on. But they actually are moved in a smaller paddocks every day. Now let's move to northern Mexico to give a little bit of the context of our ranch. If you see that red dot, that's where our ranch is located. It's part of the Chihuahuan Desert. Where I am, we get about 90 inches of precipitation per year. This is, I hope you can see this video. It was filmed nearby my ranch, and you can see that there's so much degradation, so much bare ground. This land is not producing anymore. That means that people are migrating. There's a lot of poverty. But I can tell you something. the land wasn't that way historically. Like going to my ranch, you have to drive about 70 kilometers, 40 miles on the road, and there's this gully along the road where you can see a fence hanging in there. Imagine that this happened just during on a period of 50 years, that much degradation with just 9 inches of rain. But it also tells you, it gives you another clue. I'm not sure if you can see there a layer of carbon there on the side. And that layer of carbon wasn't really put by bare ground or mesquite. Mesquite is this woody plant that is considered like invasive in our area. I think you have mesquite in Australia. Yeah, I do remember. So that give us a clue of the tall grasses that used to be there. But also there's written evidence like this expedition that took place in 1776, where these priests were trying, when it was used to be New Spain, and these priests embarked in a journey going from Santa Fe, New Mexico to Monterey, California. And the most surprising thing is that when they passed by Salt Lake in Utah, which is very dry, they say that they had never seen any most beautiful grasslands in whole New Spain. I remember that New Spain went from Central America all the way to Montana and Washington State. It was a huge tract of land. So given those historical ecological perspective, then this is a picture of our ranch when it rains. We have a mountain range in the middle, we have flat land, and we also have hills. So we need cattle that will perform on every of those environments. And we also got snow. I know snow is kind of rare in Australia, but I just want to let you know that we had the four seasons of the ranch. This year, our state of Chihuahua, Mexico, got really good snowstorm, and in my ranch it went down to, I think it was -10 Celsius. Right now I'm here at the ranch and it's reaching about 40 Celsius, 40 degrees Celsius. So we have pretty extreme temperatures. Now this is our rainfall pattern. Pretty much we get all the rain in 3 months. So we need to make sure that we produce enough grass on those 3 months for that grass to last for the next 2 years. Why 2 years? Because that's the time that it takes us to go to the same paddock. You may consider that very extreme, but also it gives us a little peace of mind to have stockpile grass there. Because remember that there's always cheaper to supplement the cows with rough grass than with no grass. No grass is really very expensive. Unfortunately, the trend is going downwards. And this relates to what we call the small water cycle, which is that if we start losing vegetation, then we will not be able to get more rain. We will get less rain because of all that evapotranspiration not taking place. So how can we do more with less? That is the question. I want to tell you that on the last 2.5 years, we only get 7 inches. That would be what, 175? Yeah, 175 millimeters on the last 2.5 years. That was really tough. But on the last 30 days, we got 6 inches. And this is the response of our land with 6 inches on the last 30 days. This picture and this picture and this picture as well. You can see that some of the mesquite that we have, that woody plant is dying. It's just drying up. Why? Because the mesquite was thriving on a ecosystem that you don't keep moisture, but because the grasses start keeping moisture, then the mosquitoes cannot deal with so much moisture. Pretty much anything that has thorns, it will go away. But then just a comparison, this picture was taken on the same day that I take the pictures in my ranch after 6 inches of rain. I mean, I just took these pictures like 2 weeks ago. And why this bare ground didn't respond? Because it's sealed, it's lacking animal impact, it's lacking enough rest. That is, I think the message here is it just not only takes more rain anymore. We need to get involved. We need to manage better. So we're gonna get better results. So this is the kind of animal impact that we're doing at the ranch. If you have an area that doesn't have much grass, then you just can pass by your cattle, and they will put some manure. They will make a lot of animal impact with the hooves, manure, urine, saliva, everything. If you can see on this video, I'm in front of the cattle, so they follow you. You don't really have to herd them or drive them. I know pigweed is a different word, and I realized that when I was in Australia 2 months ago than here in the Americas. But I'm talking about a pigweed that is an amaranthus. And there was a spot of the ranch that when we made animal impact, we got full of these pigweeds, like huge. I was riding my horse and he was taller than myself. So sometimes we're so concerned about the weeds that we say, oh, let's cut the weed, they spray it because it will spread all the seeds. But it's really the conditions that you create is what nature is gonna give you. We never seen this weed anymore, but instead of that, we were able on the same spot to grow this grass, which is a tall grass that we didn't even think about having the seed, the dormant seed for that grass. In English, is called a green sprangletop, and that actually is in the whole southern U.S. and also northern Mexico and some other parts of Mexico. It's a warm season grass, and thanks to that pigweed that build this big taproot system, they build the conditions for this grass to germinate. This grass also germinated because we were providing a long rest period. This grass really needs a whole year to grow. If we're grazing like every 3 months, every 4 months, we wouldn't be aware that we are overgrazing certain grasses. I also took this picture this week, and I'm very excited about what's going on with our dry washes, creeks, or we call it also arroyos, because when you do graze these, what we could consider riparian areas for a short time, let's say half a day or a day, and then a long rest period, what happens is that you start growing grass there, and then on the next rains, that grass is covered with sediment, and it goes one step up, and it goes one step up until your dry washes level out. I mean, they level up, and instead of you seeing the water flowing through the arroyo or the dry wash just once and leaving your property, then it comes and spread out across your property. So it's like almost like a natural irrigation system. And the only tool we use there is just the livestock. Just to continue with the context, this was my ranch when we were running 50 plus pastures or paddocks, as you may call them. We did get good results, but we never got the diversity that we wanted because we were grazing 3 times a year, every 3 days. We moved every 3 days, and that was good, but we really were looking for more. So we moved from 50 plus pastures to 350 electric fence paddocks. And that is that actually shows you how we divided those or subdivided those 50 plus pastures into paddocks. These are long paddocks that can be subdivided with polywire. Everything that you see there is permanent. The electric fence. All those blue dots represent troughs. But in this particular case, it was from a friend of mine who actually was doing portable troughs. In our particular case, in our ranch, we usually have one trough for every 10 paddocks, 5 on the top and 5 at the bottom. And then we build corridors or alleys to the water. And we, depending on the year, depending on the rains, depending on how much grass there is, if we decided that we're moving every day, then maybe one of those paddocks is enough for one day. But if we ride our horses and determine that one of those paddocks can be subdivided into one day and one day, then we use polywire to subdivide it. I also had the fortune to be at the Gabyon Station in Western Australia, where Gemma, I think, yeah, that's her name. She showed us a powerful tool, which is virtual fence. She already did some experiment with electric fence, but then she quickly moved to virtual fence. And it is, I mean, it's pretty amazing to me because this is her design, which is really not that different than our design. And then instead of having a permanent water or trying to figure out how the water is going to be developed, what she did was having a portable water. So you see the cattle grazing there. No, I mean, you don't, it's so nice to see it because you don't see any fence there. But then this is how she figured out how to move the water. It's very ingenious and it's working for her. I think the whole idea here, folks, is get the water and get more intentional grazing, and then rest that area for a full year in that environment, in my environment, in a more brittle environment. I think the rest periods will depend on where you are. I was in Colombia like 10 days ago. And there in Colombia, they got, in that particular place in Colombia, they got, I don't know, like 150 inches per year. There's a lot of water. And most people are resting the areas for 30 days. We already did some experiments on those dry tropics. And just going from 30 days to 60 days, it gives them more diversity. And instead of us chasing the optimal point of the grasses, we look for diversity. And on that test, the heifers did better with more diversity and a 60-day rest period than a 30-day rest period chasing the optimal point of the grasses. So how do we do it? How do we divide it or paddocks if we're using polywire? Look at this example. That's where we just grazed. We take out the polywire, and that's where you see that the cattle just move to the next paddock. What is the size of the paddock? That is where we call it the art of grazing. That's where the sign stops, and you observe how much area they need for one day, and then that's where you build your paddock for one day. And this same paddock could be smaller. This is in winter, but this paddock could be smaller in summer because there's more green, or it could be larger during a drought because they need more. So it's really for you to learn how your cows are behaving, what the cows are telling you, and then you have the opportunity every day to adjust the size. And we always favor the cows before the soil, because at the end of the day, the cows are the ones bringing the money. Just to give you an example we usually use 3 colors to define the grass: green, gold, and gray. I think you like the green and gold because it's your the color of your flags. And we don't want gray. I mean, gray is grass that hasn't been grazed for a while, is oxidized and is dying. It's pretty much that lack of animal impact. So that was our typical winters. Now these are winters. A big difference, and it's all about management, folks. You can see a donkey there. I mean, some people ask me, why are you using donkey? You know, I consider donkeys to be like a service crop. If you go to a farmer and you say, you know, you need, in order for you to do regen ag, you need a service crop or a cover crop. They call it cover crop as well. No, no, they're going to take my water. Well, when they see my donkeys, they say, oh, it's going to take the feed that the cows can eat. But in reality, they are actually adding instead of subtracting. And the purpose of having the donkey is to do a more even grazing and not having to force my cows to eat stems or things that the cows may not perform well. I tell people donkeys can eat paper and thrive. The other thing that we need to get over is fighting nature, folks. Whatever you have at this point is what nature decided that that's what you need. Like, it's not nice, it's not good for the business, but it is what it is. So instead of us fighting nature, spraying, mechanical removing, just leave it there and focus on what you want. In this case, some people recommended us to get rid of that woody plant, but then we just focused on growing grass. And that was the result. I mean, we were able to grow grass. I think what people is not considering is how powerful is the biology of the cow. This is another example where this side of the fence is our ranch in the spring after 9 months of no rain, and the other side of the fence, the outside, the upper part, is neighboring property. You see the response, it's just so dramatic. And this is the same spot. I think one of the challenges we have as ranchers is that sometimes people that are, let's say, from the government or conservationists, and they see that the ranch is not doing well, the first thing that came up to their mind is you have to lower your numbers. But in this particular case, and that's why I'm showing you this, I have more and better grasses than the neighbor, and I'm running 4 times more cattle per acre than the neighbor. So it's not always the number of cattle you have, it's how you manage that cattle. This is another example on the same day, going to the ranch, the big difference that it makes when you actually try to mimic nature, emulate nature with the herd effect. Obviously, it will make a difference the more tight your cattle is, and the more cattle you can run at once. It's not the same having 100 cows on 1 acre or 1 hectare as 1,000 cows on 10 hectares. Those 1,000 cows will do a much better job, even though the equation may be the same, but it's not the same. The more cattle you can put together, the better it's always going to be, even at a lower densities. Always the challenge will be water. I mean, you're gonna be able to grow a lot of grass in brittle environments, but remember, water is the foundation in brittle environments. One thing that we learned actually the hard way is to respect natural succession. We're not gonna spend much time here, but this is kind of an exercise we did. We were asked by a friend of mine from France, can you tell us what kind of plants you see on bare soil, and then what are the pioneers, early grasses, middle grasses? What I can tell you is when we're not doing good, things get really tough. I mean, everything has a thorn, everything's gonna bite you, it's gonna be very hot. as we make progress, then everything's going to be more smooth. I actually changed my big hairy goal to be able to work barefoot in summer in the Chihuahuan Desert. To continue with that discussion, actually working with the bird conservancy organizations in the US, they're trying to protect this aplomado falcon. And that aplomado falcon nests on that yucca, of that palm that you see there. But then they think that our cows are breaking those yuccas. Nothing far from the truth. I think what's going on there is the yuccas really needed the grasslands to survive. When we overgrazed or overrested those grasslands, the yucca just went away. And the picture on the right is from the highway. And I really wanted to take that picture because it's a little bit of an island of grass there, and the yucca is surviving. Once that grass goes away, then the yucca is going to die. I have seen this in many places, including Australia, where in Australia you're losing some of your best or most precious trees because there's no grasslands anymore. Same deal in Texas. You go to Central Texas, where there used to be oaklands and grasslands. Now you're seeing the mesquite, you're seeing the cactus, you're seeing more thorny plants getting over because we did not care for grasslands. Now, this is one of the few pictures that I wanted to show you. Is a more cessation picture. It's a picture that was taken in the same spot. First, 2015, bare ground. Obviously, we're grazing this once a year or once every 18 months. Then 3 years after, weeds. We don't fight weeds. Weeds are part of the regeneration process. Then 2021, now we're growing grasses. One thing we need to keep in mind, folks, is whatever management we're doing is taking us forwards or backwards, but we will never stand still. And as we always trying to improve what we do, how can we raise the bar? Because we are strong believers on diversity. This is a verse from the Bible. I was trying to understand how that verse applied to what we do as stewards of the land. And I was asking myself, what do you need to produce milk and honey? Actually, it's not like only grasslands. It's flowering herbs or forbs, as we know them in the US. But how can I have a grassland full of forbs or flowering herbs? Why? Because if you measure the breaks, the sugars in a grass, and next to that grass is a herb or a forb, that forb will always beat the grass in terms of sugars and protein. And that's why if you want to produce a lot of milk, you need forbs. If you want to produce a lot of honey, you need flowering herbs. Like, for example, in my ranch, that is a really good forb or flowering herb, and that only grows among the grasslands. So the grasslands is a way to fix the water cycle, to provide that better water cycle, that water infiltration for the forbs to actually come up or germinate. This is a typical example of how I would like to see my ranch. It's not only grasslands, but also forblands. You may be familiar with Christine Jones. She's from Australia, and the last time that I heard her in Washington State, she said that North American grasslands were not grasslands, were forblands. We also talk about diversity of grazers. How come are we trying to do everything with just one kind of animal like cattle? I think the more diversity we have, the better. We selected the donkeys. We also run the horses, donkeys, and cattle together in just one herd. The only herd that we have apart is the bulls because we have a joining season, breeding season for 2 months. Let's see what is going on here. Okay. So one of the indicators that I want to share with you is one of them is the leaf to stem ratio. This picture was taken on the same day. It's the same kind of, it's the same grass. It's the Tabosa grass. It's just that with the proper management, you're gonna see that the grasses are going to go shorter, wider, bigger canopy, and with more leaves. And then remember, we wanna stay ourselves into the gold and green, not the gray. And when your grasses are stressed, they're gonna turn gray and they're gonna start dying slowly, but they're gonna die. This is the same picture as before. So I was able to pull that oxidized grass with my hands because of the shallow root system. And the right grass is my grass. Not even my donkeys will be able to pull it with a deep root system. So one of the problems we have is that we say, yeah, we want perennial grasses. Yes, but we need to know what is the state of those perennial grasses because sometimes our perennial are so sick and hunger and dying that they behave like annual grasses. Their green season is so short. I believe that a perennial grass should, warm season perennial grass or cool season should stay green year round. It doesn't matter where in North Dakota or where in the Chihuahua or where in Australia, a warm season perennial grass should stay green, but I'm not saying that full green like on the rainy season. I'm saying that at the bottom of the grass, during the non-growing season or winter, it has to have green. That should be our goal. Why is it so important to have green year round? Because if we have green, then we don't need to supplement. If we don't have green, we need to bring something from the outside the ranch, and it's going to cost us. This is a refractometer. It's a good tool as an indicator. And this is the result of improving your soil biology, improving the quality of grasses. The higher the breaks, the more the daily gains of your cattle or sheep, whatever you have, livestock. Also, better breaks levels do help by preventing the diseases and actually repelling insects. Once you get into 2-digit breaks on your grasses, then you're gonna start seeing a difference in how they repel a lot of insects. How do we deal with the invasive species? Same deal, I mean, the same thing, just livestock properly managed, like the wood encroachment. See what's going on at the ranch with this creosote. It's just not able to deal with so much moisture kept by the grasses. Same deal with the mesquites. We start seeing a small mesquite dying. Then we start seeing larger mesquites, and then we start seeing huge mesquites dying. They just cannot deal with so much moisture that is held by the grasslands. How about fires? We may skip this one probably because we don't have problem with fires in Australia or the US, but I think let's take a look at it. So these are really good study by NASA on how moisture affects fire susceptibility. The conclusion is that there's a direct correlation between soil moisture and fire counts. The drier your soil, the more fires you're gonna have, natural fires. How can we prevent this? Well, I think and I feel that forests in the US and Australia are overprotected. They don't want to have any cattle. They still believe that rewilding is the response, but it's not. So look at this example. The left side is a forest that was overprotected. You can see what does the forest do when we don't have grasslands? It put more trees, more evergreens, and more until it's an overpopulation of trees, and some trees are dying. And you know how nature corrects that? With fire. I mean, fire is a natural way of resetting things. The point here is that our times are not the same as nature times. So we don't want a fire in our forest because it's going to take years and years. The right side is a rancher grazing the forest. So you tell me which forest is more prone to very devastating fires. This is another forest, and this is in our state of Chihuahua, where a friend of mine who is doing a pretty good job on grazing, he was able now to grow a lot of grass on his forest. That's preventing or reducing the incidence of fires, but also killing some of the invasive species the same way that I'm actually killing mesquite. It wasn't in purpose. It just, that's what's going on when it's becoming more grasslands. He was able to actually kill juniper. Do you know how much money is spent on fighting juniper in the US? And you know what the problem is? We don't change the foundation, which is how we graze. You can see how he's killing the juniper. No spraying, just growing thick grasslands on his forest. And now the pines are surviving, and the original trees that were in the forest when there was a grass are surviving, but not the invasive ones. How important is the armor in the soil? Good cover. This is a picture in Texas, West Texas, where a friend of mine was complaining because he said, you know, Alex, on the right side in autumn, on the left picture, on the right side of the fence, we had good ground cover with grasses. But when it snowed in the winter, they never got all the snow, and we did not get any snow. That's pretty unfair. Reality, folks, is when you have good cover in the soil, good skinny soil, the temperatures in summer will be cooler in the soil. But the temperatures in winter will be warmer in the soil. So he captured more snow because of the grasses, but the snow melted much faster because of the warmer temperatures in the soil. Probably most of you have seen these very high temps on bare ground. This is in Fahrenheit. And then once we reached the ranch, even later during the day, it went down to 75 Fahrenheit. I hope you can read that. How about effective rainfall, which is a term coined by Alan Savory? Don't tell me how much rain you get, tell me how much rain you can infiltrate. So do you think that rain is still the major limitation in grass productivity? I don't think so, folks. I think the major limitation is air in the soil. So how can we open our soils? Well, we need to have a green plant doing photosynthesis, feeding the mycorrhizal fungi, creating the aggregation, opening up the soil like big marbles there. And then we're going to be able to increase infiltration rates by multiple times. Because reality, most ranchers in brittle environments, if they infiltrate 30% of the rain, gosh, they're lucky. So there, we've been able to increase infiltration rate from the left to the right 5 times so far. A small water cycle. What I can tell you about this is a ranch of a friend of mine. What a coincidence, right? Or maybe the perfect timing, but what I can tell you is we ranchers doing this regen approach, holistic, rational approach, we're getting about 10% more rain than other conventional ranchers. It's not only that we infiltrate more rain, we're getting extra rain thanks to having the soil covered with grasses and more cool temperatures. So what else is beyond animal impact? What is the benefit of having that cow pie? If it is still there, remember, we don't like gray color. So who is in charge of putting that cow pie into the soil? Is it dung beetles? How can we have dung beetles? You don't have to bring the dung beetles. You need to create the condition for the dung beetles to arrive, and that ties a lot to how long we retain moisture in the soil. And also, well, we shouldn't kill the dung beetles with ivermectin or warmers, as we call them other way. This is a side view of the world of the dung beetles. It's incredible. I mean, they put most of the cow pie into the soil. Termites are another creature that we actually like it. Maybe not in our houses, but they do a pretty amazing work because whatever is left, branches falling, unoxidized grass, they're going to take those and put into the soil, while at the same time putting nitrogen into the soil. Well,
okay,
I can tell
sorry,
you our
Alejandro.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, it's me. Sorry, can I just interrupt? We are at 8:15. I'm conscious that everybody has things to do and you're a busy person as well. So yeah, just be aware of the time. Thanks, sorry.
No, that's fine, that's good. Should we stop here or should we, for questions, what would you like to do?
Yeah, it might be actually a good time to stop unless you've nearly finished this, but I'm sure people will want to ask some questions.
Okay, let me go. Let me see if I'm missing something. No, I mean, I can tell you that we have way more wildlife. And then we are now in peace with the bird conservancy organization, because they know that what we do is good for the birds. We have endangered birds coming to the ranch from the US. And that will be it. Let me stop there. I'm going to stop sharing.
Cool. Thank you very much for that, Alejandro. Okay, has anyone got any questions? So
there's one person that is asking, how did she move the water trough? Yeah, I got a friend who did everything portable, and he was using only polywire, and he had this little buggy or jeep, and he actually make a homemade portable trough with tires, and then he was also moving the water pipe. So he did everything portable, and he was actually putting the trough for every 4 paddocks, 2 on one side and 2 on the other. Though he was pretty young, he was like 20 something. I'm not sure how long he's going to be able to last doing that.
Yay. Any questions? Everybody's very quiet. I need someone to ask something to keep it
yeah,
going.
There's another question here about a very degraded land. You know, I think we need to be very experimental here. And let's say that me, Alejandro, said, you know, I don't believe on fire. Okay, don't believe what I'm saying. Go and do your experiment, which I was very happy this time that I went to Australia, because some people that I met 2 years ago, they were already doing their experiments. And when I say experiment is set aside a small area, let's say just for 10 days, try to estimate how much is 10 days and move daily, and then protect the area for a full year and see the results. So how do we know if we still have a seed bank or plants or something that we are looking for? increase your densities, meaning like do that experiment for 10 days, protect it for a full year, and see what's coming up. Don't get disappointed if you get weeds, because weeds are going to be the first one to show up. But then you gotta keep doing that. The thing here, folks, and it's very important, and I think we did not mention that, is you're not going to go to the worst area of your ranch. We're not trying to prove that this works on the worst. Every ranch has an area that has more, still more grasses, more diversity, maybe a riparian area, a creek or meadow. That's where you need to start, because even a small scale, like I just visited a ranch in Colorado where they have this long riparian area, and the rest of the ranch is kind of degraded, but they're going to start on that riparian area because you can see it in two ways. The first one is, how can I get the fastest return on investment? Okay, choose the best areas first. Or how can I protect my biological assets? Again, choose the best areas first. So don't try to prove anyone that you can, try to select the best areas, and that is where there's water, extra water, more diversity. You may think that you may not need it there, but once you go and do daily moves with a long rest period, you're gonna see, wow, I like this. Then go from the best to the worst, from the easy to the worst one, to the most visible, and so on.
Alejandro, Angus has got a question. He's got his hand up. Angus, do you want to turn your mic on? Where's he gone?
I'm here. Yeah. Hey, Alejandro.
Hello. How are you, Angus?
I have a question with within a certain area. Maybe we can't put in 100 smaller paddocks. Maybe we can do 10 or something. The rotation, we're back at the start very shortly. Is that of benefit, or is it better to graze the area and keep the rotation slow? If that makes any sense. Less time in each paddock visiting more frequently, or more time in less paddocks rotating more slowly?
Oh my God, that's a good question, Angus. I think it's in between those two questions. There will always be a benefit by creating that short time, even though you may return sooner. I would prefer that approach. Get the animal impact, and unfortunately, you have to return sooner than you wanted, but it's fine. I think for me, it's more important the animal impact than the rest. But the ideal situation is get animal impact, let's say daily moves, and then at least 1 year rest in your area. In the station that I went when I was there with you. Yeah. But remember, I went for every 4 months of a rest to 6 months to 9 months to 12 months. I didn't do it all the way through.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. That answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Jardine, you're next. And then I think it's Will.
Howdy, guys. G'day, Alejandro. Great to see your face again. Hope you're well, and I hope you had fun in Australia. Yeah. How was Kachana? Good fun.
Oh my God, a dream come true.
Nice.
That was good. That was excellent.
All the grass and diversity. I wanted to, just given you've recently been through drought, Alejandro, I wanted to ask about your planning process and your decision process for dealing with drought now that you're in your kind of holistic and rational system. So you've basically got a budget of feed ahead of you for about 2 years. But obviously with a drought and without that growth season, you're going to be eating into that, and that reserve is going to slowly go down. So you'll go from having 2 years ahead of you to maybe not. But I just wanted to ask how you think and how you go through that process of thinking through how
Yeah.
you're going to deal with
No,
drought, if that makes sense.
thank you. No, yeah, that's very important, because if we have more cows and the grass, oh my God, we can actually get completely broken. So we always, at the end of the growing season, which is our fall here, before winter, we look at how much precipitation we got and also visually assess every area. And if we feel that we have more grass and cattle, we just carry on, and we may actually get some stalkers or yearlings to grow, to put some pounds, because it's very cheap to put pounds on native grasslands. If we feel that we're too tight, then we start destocking at a higher percentage. Obviously, it goes from the poor performing cows. We always trying to keep the core. Even on the last 2 years that we have a very tough drought, we kept the core. But on the last 2 years, because we have very little rain, we went from 700 cows to 500 cows. We had to destock really intensive. I feel that we have become more conservative, and we prefer to have more grass. And then also you can play like some of my friends that are growing a lot of grass with leasing part of your ranch, or getting some stalkers. So that's really helped them to have like a escape clause. If something goes wrong, then you get rid of that very fast. It's always more difficult on a cow-calf operation to get rid of cows.
Yeah, to vary the numbers. And sorry, Alejandro, are you budgeting out for 2 years ahead? Are you kind of looking at it at the end of the growing season and saying, right, we know we've got enough grass for the cows that we've got for a year, or kind of 2 years? Is that how much of a budget do you usually give yourself?
At least 18 months, but things have been so rough that now I'm happy if I had 2 years of grass in front of me. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
It gives you a peace of mind. I mean, that has no price, having peace of mind.
Awesome. Thank you, Alejandro. Awesome.
Thank you.
Hey, Alejandro. It's good to see you. It feels like it was the other day we caught up with you at Gabyon. My question today is like in the rest period, right? So you've done your graze, cattle and donkeys move forward. Do you have any other native graziers that sort of suppress regrowth and after the high impact grazing? And is there any opportunity to assist in that rest and recovery period? Like, you're obviously doing you're doing electric fencing. Any experience in that space?
Yeah, you mean like kangaroos or something that is coming in?
Yeah.
Like
I mean kangaroos for the Australians. Yeah.
Yeah, no, well, we have these flying cows in the US, elk. I don't know if you're familiar with elk. And a lot of ranchers are concerned about elk as well, because there's no fences for elk. They just jump. So I think there's a point where you may get hit by these native species, but you will reach a point where you're gonna grow more grass, and that can deal with all those native species coming into your place. Because the challenge here is that you're gonna have better grasses than the neighboring properties. So all those creatures are gonna concentrate there. Sometimes ranches are in a place that is completely unbalanced, for predation or even these native grazers, and that's where you need to intervene. I mean, because right now with all the fragmentation and all the nearby houses, and so sometimes we need to intervene, and some more times you just grow enough grass that you can actually increase also by several times the native species that are grazing. There's a big difference, obviously, because in the US you can do business with the elk. The more elk, probably the more hunting, but roos is a different kind of animal. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, back in the chat one, we've got one from Robin, and it says, what are your experiences with virtual fencing as opposed to electric? And do you think it's possible to adapt that technology to donkeys? And maybe draw, obviously, Gabyon, and then you were over at Gallagher in New Zealand when you were over in March. So is there anything you can draw on from both of those as well?
Well, you know, I remember today the virtual fence because I was putting polywire on my mountain range. And I say, oh my God, if I just have virtual fence here. But no, I think that technology came to stay. I mean, it's a technology that is going to be pretty, it's been adopted very fast in the US, mostly because the carbon credit companies are actually financing virtual fence. One way to help the rancher, but there's another way to monitor what the rancher is doing. I really like virtual fence. I have seen it mostly Gallagher, the e-shepherd in Texas, and now in Australia. And I really like it. It's still all of that virtual fence, all the brands and everything, they are still evolving, but they are doing better and better. So I think that's a technology that is here to stay. And I have really feel it these days while I'm at the ranch that I really wanted to know, like I have some cows that escape the electric fence. I said, at least I would know where the cows would be if I had a virtual fence. And the other thing is I don't know anyone who is trying virtual fence on donkeys, but I don't see really any problem. I would really love to control donkeys with virtual fence. Maybe we should give it a try. Because there are some places in the US and also in Australia that they are so degraded. And you know, you go to the streams. In the US, it's like a pet, and Australia is a pest. Well, we don't want either of those. We really want to use donkeys to regenerate very degraded land that most of the plants are oxidized. And donkeys can take it. It will be ideal to have virtual fence. So what is the other question here?
You've answered both of Jardine's. There's the Melissa Edwards one. What would be one of your key indicator species that you look for when you have healed an ecosystem?
Oh, well, if you can see more flowering herbs or forbs, then that would be one of my key indicators. Yeah. And also, you know, we have very simple tools like a shovel. I mean, it's not only like seeing the plants, which the more diversity you have, the better. But also, well, let me share with you this. Every year, the bird conservancy organizations came to count the birds, the migratory birds. They sometimes bring grass specialists or plant specialists. And 8 years ago, they counted here 20 different grasses. 2 years ago, they counted 80 different grasses. That would be like a key indicator that the more diversity you have, the more resilient you're going to be. But also, if you just take a simple tool like a penetrometer or a shovel, and then you can see that the shovel goes all the way down. Because remember, the major limitation is air in the soil. It's not actually water. If you have seen some root systems, even if we go to corn, a cropland, corn, why do corn fall when there's strong winds? Have you seen a root system? Because of tillage, because of chemicals, the corn goes and hits that hard pan because it's compacted, lack of air, and it goes sideways. So exactly the same happens with our grasses. Sometimes our grasses cannot develop a good root system because the soil is so compacted. But it's compacted not because of that is the way the soil is. It's because the way we've been grazing for years. And you know what happens with a perennial grass that has a short root system? We're praying for rain almost every week because it dries up so fast. Instead of having a root system that goes all the way through, because that plant found moisture and air in the soil.
Actually, I asked that question, Alejandro, when you were talking about birds and insects. I wasn't clear enough. I meant as in a critter, like an insect or birds or something. What's your indicator species that you look for? Like when you see it, it's like, yeah, we've done it. There we go. That's what I've been looking for.
Yeah, in our particular case here in northern Mexico, one of the top birds that will indicate that everything else is in order is the golden eagle. I mean, if we have a family of golden eagles here, that means that everything under on our place is in good condition. That would be insects. I'm very keen into spiders and insects that predate on other insects. That would be really a very good indicator as they grow in numbers and diversity. I think we are on the right track. Yeah, and then the numbers, also the numbers of birds and so on. Yep. I hope I answered your question.
Cool. Thanks for clearing that up. Okay, so another one from Robin. How do you navigate temporary polywire fencing in high wind areas? Do you see a correlation between regenerative grazing and wind?
You mean how do we deal with the polywire? You mean like with the wind, or I'm not clear.
That's what I'm thinking. Robin, do you want to jump in?
Yeah. So, you know, a lot of our temporary polywire fencing, when we get these winds, sometimes they're like 65, 70 miles an hour. They pop over. So I was just wondering if if you've had any experience with dealing with it in high winds.
Well, yeah, I think we also have strong winds here, but I haven't really seen that problem. It may be the kind of post that you use, or maybe how deep. Are you using like a all portable, like a pigtail post, or is the permanent electric fence? How's your electric fence?
The exterior is all T-posts, and the polywire just snaps in that wind.
And then when you have strong winds, the T-post has no problem, right? It will not fall. So what is it that is kind of giving you an issue? Is the insulators or is the polywire?
Yeah, it's the polywire just breaks. Yeah.
Okay. No, I mean, unfortunately, I haven't seen that problem here. And we have strong winds as well. With a very dusty, strong winds. We have pretty bad strong winds, dust storms this year. Really, really bad. Maybe we couldn't see anything. That's why we couldn't really figure out what was going on. But no, unfortunately, I don't really know what to tell you about that.
Thank you.
I mean, the other question that I would ask is, what brand are you using on the polywire? I'm not sure because, for example, I experienced with different reels at some point, and I tried to be cheapy. Oh no, they didn't last that long. So I think that could, I mean, probably you should try a different polywire, maybe a bit more expensive, but that could resist more of those strong winds. I'm thinking out loud. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm just going to put that one out to anyone else in the group. Has anyone had the same problem as Robin has had? I'll let you think about that and jump in if you do. There's a couple more questions. I am conscious that it is now 20 to 9 and we are only going to go through to 8:30. Are you okay to answer a few more questions, Alejandro, or do you need to get going?
No, I'm fine. I'm fine to answer more questions. Yeah.
Okay, so cool. Okay, we'll do a couple more. So The next one comes from Quinton. Okay, Alejandro, you mentioned Gabyon and Kachana in WA. What were some of the interesting or unique experiments and grazing operations that you saw on Australian stations, particularly the eastern states and South Australia?
Yeah, Kachana is a station that the owner has been really, really committed to make it work. I think that's more than a particular station. I think it's the owner that it really makes a difference. Yeah, we have found that. And then Kachana is a beautiful place. I mean, it's in the Kimberleys. There used to be water everywhere. Now there's only plenty of water where there has been managed under holistic management, grazing. One of the most impressive things is that they're using what they found there. They're using what used to be wild cattle, wild donkeys. There's a legal battle between Kachana and the government about the donkeys, which I think the donkeys are a perfect addition because it's a very broken land. It has some valleys, but also has some very steep land. And the idea when you have broken land, like mountains and things like that, is that you want to graze the whole thing, because water many times starts from the top to the bottom. If you cannot stop the water with vegetation from the top, and now you can see very, very big difference when you land in Kachana and where the government is using fire as a tool or skilling all the donkeys. So yeah, I think still a donkey is a creature that is still counts as a creature that can regenerate and its diversity. So Kachana was a very impressive station to know. Actually, they did a real experiment with fire there, where a very small plot where we put fire on a perennial, good, healthy grasses, and next to that were annual grasses or very poor shape perennial grasses, and we couldn't even keep the fire on the perennials. But on the annual grasses, it just started like a very destructive fire. And that's when I explained to you guys about the forest. That is a real case where it was not surprised to me. I mean, yeah. And regarding Gabyon Station, I was very pleased to know that the owner was already doing some experiments with electric fence, and then she moved to virtual fence. But she found a way. I mean, she was intentional. I mean, I'm pretty impressed because she did it work. She made it work. And one thing, folks, that we need to be very wary is virtual fence will not save on water or on observation. I mean, water needs to be there. Stock water, I mean, it needs to be there. It's not like magically, you're going to have water everywhere. And water is the foundation, remember. The other thing is that many people get too excited about virtual fence and they want to manage everything on the computer. And let's say that they ended up building very small paddocks where there was not enough feed. We cannot sacrifice cows for something that is, like a technology or something. Cows will always be first, and these are the ones that are bringing the money. Yeah.
Cool. And I know Jody wasn't able to come on this morning, but you were at her place in Latrobe. What was she doing out there as well? If you don't mind going into that one as well.
Yeah, well, in Queensland, right? Yeah. Well, that was pretty amazing because she did already some experiments in some of her paddocks, and we could see, for example, how the densities, like daily moves, and how the long rest periods do really affect the result. Where they did more daily moves and also provided like 8 months of rest, including the rainy season, we have way more diversity, and the gaps that you find between the basal or the perennials was full of new plants. That's what we want. I mean, we want, well, and also they did it in an area that was really good. I understand they got good rains, but also even within the ranch, comparing the different paddocks, you see big difference when you actually combine that biology, they call that herd effect, with our laundress period. Yeah, but yeah, we're pretty excited about the results there. And they invested in water, in a good water system. I think that should be the first thing. But even though you might have your master plan for water, the implementation again needs to go from the best areas to the worst areas.
Oh, thank you. There's a couple more in the chat and then I will let you go. We've got, how can we create a better environment in our ecosystem for dung beetles to thrive?
Yeah, it's actually the solution is this animal impact. If most ranchers or herders, farmers, they have their livestock to spread out. I mean, they are not really making much of an animal impact. If they have few animals or a few herds spread across the whole ranch with not many animals, it's really when we actually go into more frequent moves that we start making and that's why we actually encourage people to do these small trials so they can compare, okay, so this section or this area, I did daily moves, which will be a huge increase on density. And then I protected the area because I may go back to that area again. It could be a section of one of your paddocks. And then you can see, wow, I really like, even you can see even the color of the grass. Remember, one of our goals is to extend the green season. Here in my ranch, that grass that is quite dominant, the tobosa, that grass was green only 4 months. Imagine, we were actually putting a lot of money on the rest of the year because we didn't have any green. It was green only when it was raining. So that perennial grass was behaving like an annual grass. Once we start actually being more intentional, more frequent moves, longer periods, there's areas in my ranch that grass has green year round. And that's really when you start saving a lot of money and you become a low cost producer.
Okay, and Charmaine's question. If you were starting out with development again, would you go straight to small as possible paddocks with polywire or keep splitting larger paddocks, i.e. 20 to 40 to 60 to 180 paddocks? I think
yeah,
I've got
that's a pretty good
right,
question.
Charmaine?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question because let me tell you, I did exactly what I shouldn't do because I have like 2 areas of the ranch when I started, and one area already has grass. So I thought, well, that area doesn't need my help. Let me go to the other area of the ranch that is quite degraded. So I built large paddocks or pastures. I put all my cattle. The first thing that I had to deal with was water because I never thought about water either because I was trying to get 2 herds into one. And then, you know, it became like a catch-22 where, oh my God, because when you say, okay, I want to be a regen rancher, well, I have to tell you something. The chip's still going on the wrong direction because your land's still degrading. And that's why we're so emphatic into what should I start, what should I have done 15 years ago. I should have started on this spot here near the house that still has some good grasses and start doing my trials because we always have someone that we need to report to. It could be your father, it could be your wife, it could be your partner. And the longer it takes us to get results, the most likely things are going to fall into the cracks. So if I had done, like on where I had grass, these 3 or 4 pilots nearby the house, even where he was passing by, I say, do you see that grass that is greener and taller? So what do you do there? I did this. Okay, let's keep going. You know, so yeah, that would be my recommendation. Like now, in terms of the size, there's really not a specific size. Remember, this is the art of grazing. Obviously, if you choose one of your best paddocks, the size automatically is going to be smaller. Why? Because you need less acreage or hectares for one day. Many times we move just like on half a day, morning and the afternoon, and then the size of our paddocks is for half a day or one day. I remember in Australia, someone asked me, so Alejandro, what do you do on a drought? Do you leave more grass behind or what? And I said, no, I'm not. Is my cows leaving more grass behind? Because if the decisions are made by the cows' well-being, automatically the cows are going to tell you, you know, we need more grass and we need to leave more grass because the grass is not in good condition. So it's very hard for us to let the cows decide. But that for us has been the best approach. Keep the cows full and happy, and you're going to make better decisions.
Thank you. Okay, Warren has put in the chat, do you utilize the holistic international management framework?
Sometimes, but not always. Not always. We are actually making decisions quite often. We make critical decisions also. Well, we keep track of where we were on the paddock, but when we were on that paddock, that is important for us to track. But the size of the paddock, the direction, and all that stuff is done. Sometimes 1 week we think we're going that way and we're going to do this and that, and then it rains a lot and it screwed up our plans. And some other times it did not rain, and also we need to change. I remember one time when it rained a lot and we were on the flats, and you know, let's go to the mountain range because we just cannot keep going. So you are really, really very flexible and adaptable, and always very keen observing everything what's going on, because it seems very simple. And I always remember the quote from Dale from Tom Lasseter: the cattle business is a simple business. The most difficult thing is to keep it simple, while at the same time, it's really so many variables that we always adapting, and looking at our cattle and calling the bottom. Because something we did not mention on this presentation is, and I want to ask you a question: who helped you make the decision or whether increase the size of your paddocks because you're seeing some cows not doing well, deworming, vaccinating, and so on? They are not your best cows or your best sheep. They are not even the average. They are the poor performing animals. And that's why in our system, in our approach, we actually constantly keep calling the bottom. Every month we keep and get rid of the cows that are at the bottom. Any animal that requires our time is a candidate to leave the herd. Now, if an animal is not doing well, we usually, because we spot it at the right time, put it in a nice, well-rested pasture, and they come back and we sell them. We don't do the thing that bring it to the corral and then get him back to the herd. No, because we're not gonna make any progress that way. So if we keeping that herd clean, like we change our hat from herder or shepherd to predator, and we keep cleaning or removing or culling that bottom, we're going to make better decisions.
Thank you. And one final question, and it's Jardine's again. What is your labour for your system? I think you mentioned there is a team of about 3, but maybe 3 at one time and some others for rotating people for holidays?
Yes, correct. And I'm glad that you bring the holidays because, guys, even if we moved every day, there's some times that we just have the holiday paddock where we can station the cows there for 3, 4, 5 days. Nothing's gonna happen. Nothing bad. I mean, that way it's given. Let's say that I have my foreman, or the guy in charge, and I have a cowboy. I actually need 2 people here. Remember, we try to keep it simple by having the least number of herds. In our cases, usually right now it's just 1 herd because I'm on the joining or breeding season, and it's very simple. I mean, in 2-3 hours we're done. We're done because we have a good water system. There's always things that happen. I mean, I understand I'm a rancher, but try to keep it simple. So I have 2 full-times, and I like to have a 3rd guy. I only have right now 2, but I like the other guy, the 3rd guy, because many times we're doing some new stuff, new capital investments, something like that. We do hire contractors to do like troughs or water storage tanks. We do most of the fencing, but yeah, I mean, just because in Mexico labor may be cheaper, that doesn't mean that we can have a lot of people. I mean, we better have those people well equipped. And actually, our equipment is really very simple. We have just 1 small truck, 1 old tractor, and I think that's it.
Cool, thank you. And I think that does all the questions, and we've gone half an hour over. So thank you so much, Alejandro, muchly appreciated. We really value your time that you give to us. It's amazing. And Bonnie Jupp from Regen WA, thank you so much for making this happen as well. Without you, all our tech would have gone completely and utterly pear-shaped. So thank you very much for helping out with that. So once again, thank you everyone for coming along. Very muchly appreciated. Once again, thank you so much, Alejandro. It's been a pleasure having you, and yeah, hopefully we will see you back in Australia sometime soon.
Thank you all. Thanks for participating.